Hi, my name is EJ Massa. It's the Saturday before Easter. Not only that, it's my father-in-law's birthday tomorrow on Easter, and I thought it'd be special if I got a whole lamb and we roasted it. I thought it'd be a great idea. I'm at the New England meat outlet, so let's go inside and get that lamb. A very friendly Albanian man greeted me with a fresh 28-pound lamb. I requested the head removed because there's going to be little kids at the Easter party, and I felt it'd be a little too scary for them. I mean, I'm scared by this.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
I loaded the lamb into the trunk to bring it over to my father-in-law Andre's house.
Whoa, there it is.
And I carried it into his garage where we will prepare it for the next day's festivities. And Andre started it off with a Kano impression, ripping out the heart.
Kano wins.
The butcher also left in the liver, which needed to be removed.
Probably much better than my liver.
The liver didn't go to waste either because he made liver and onions for lunch.
I feel like liver and onions.
We removed the plastic and then Andre cut off the front legs at the joint here. I'll show you what he does with those in a moment. Now to season it. We took the weight in grams and calculated 1.75% weight to figure out how much salt to use, which ended up being around 222 grams of kosher salt, which he measured out using a kitchen scale. 225 grams is close enough. Now I had some delusions that we'd get fancier with seasonings, maybe infuse olive oil with herbs, and I don't know, I'd make an herb brush to baste the thing, but my father-in-law was like, no, we're going to do this the traditional Croatian way and just use kosher salt and oil. And look, it's his birthday, so I'm not going to argue with the man. Who needs to be fancy anyway? So he rubbed the inside and outside of the lamb with olive oil, mostly to give the salt something to stick onto. And then we took the kosher salt that we measured out and rubbed it, starting on the inside and then on the outside, making sure to evenly coat every inch of the lamb until we used all the salt. We're using the SpitJack CXB85, which is actually made by a company pretty local to us. Comes with everything you need to roast a whole animal up to 85 pounds. We started by assembling the pole, which has a smaller pole which is bolted inside a larger pole half. Then you slide on the other half onto that and bolt it all together. And it's ready to fasten to the animal. We slid the pole between the hind legs and then pushed it through this hole in the front below the neck, making sure to center it a bit. Then we used these U-bolts to pierce through around the spine, starting with one on the lower spine, and once it's pierced through, you can clamp it down with these little wing nuts. And then we did the same to the upper spine, going through the cavity here, piercing through, and again, clamping it on the other side, making sure those wing nuts are nice and tight. To make sure it doesn't slide around the pole, we pierced through it with a metal spike, which goes through the pole, and added a washer and again tightened it with a wing nut. And with that, the lamb shouldn't go anywhere. Shouldn't slip around the pole or anything. Just needed to clamp its legs down with this binding clamp, which tightens easily with a screwdriver. There, those little feet won't flap around now. Now you could sew the cavity with a trussing needle and butcher's twine, but here's the Croatian technique, or so Andre calls it. You make a slit on one side, then you make a slit on the other side of the cavity. And remember those front leg pieces we cut off earlier? We're finally going back to them. You weave them through one side, and this way through the other side, and then you tie them back around to the other hole, and there, all buttoned up. I suggested putting herbs and lemons in the cavity, but he wouldn't hear it, and hey, the birthday boy gets his way. And finally, we tied the neck to the pole with some butcher's twine. And there we have it. Our lamb is all ready to go. We brought it down to the cold basement, which has refrigerator temperatures about now, and we left it overnight so that the salt has time to work its magic. We have this piece of steel which is resting on bricks, and this is what we're going to use for the lit charcoal. This is something we had made at a machine shop. We'll be cooking it inside this garage, but it's very, very well ventilated, and it has a ventilation system on top of that. Obviously, if you're doing your own cook, you should do it outside. Easter morning has arrived, and we have a nice pile of lit lump charcoal, which Andre lit with his weed torch flamethrower. We brought up the lamb from the cold basement and placed it on the rotisserie posts and bolted on the motor. When you turn it on, the lamb starts turning. How about that? So then we shovel lit charcoal under the front legs and the back legs, because that's where all the meat is, really. You don't really need charcoal under the middle because it's so narrow and it'll cook fast. So basically we'll keep adding unlit charcoal to the pile on the side, and as that pile becomes lit, we'll add it to the 2 piles under the lamb to keep them nice and heated. And we'll repeat that process for hours. We just let that lamb spin while tending to the coals. After an hour, we started to baste the meat with a salt and olive oil mixture. Yeah, no infused oils or herb brush, but it's gonna be good. After 2 hours of cooking, we lowered the lamb to be closer to the coals, and the color got better and better, brushing the lamb every once in a while with that olive oil salt mixture. And as we got up to 5 hours, the lamb looked just about done. We weren't really going on temperature, just looking at the joints coming apart, and you can tell when it's really done if you pierce it, and juices either run clear or not at all. Now it's almost dinner time, and everyone is getting hungry. Time to stop the spit, remove the bolt by the motor, and we carried the lamb over to a couple sawhorses so we can start carving up the meat for dinner. We did let it rest under the foil as we got the dinner sides and the table ready. And then it's carving time. Andre lopped off pieces and loaded up trays for serving inside. Then we used the meat cleaver to break down the rest of it. And here's the platter loaded up with meat cut against the grain. And damn, the flavor is so good. Flavorful, tender, and the juice just coats your mouth in deliciousness. It was a good call to only use salt. It brings out a nice, meaty flavor. So as I'm filming this, Easter's coming to an end. The lamb was cooked perfectly, seasoned to perfection. So I hope you have a great spring, the rest of the year, you and your family. That's all I have for now. Until next time, bye.